You a little short for a stormtrooper?
What's up, nerds? Welcome to another episode of the Multiverse Report. We are recapping Lord of the Rings, Episode 3. Sorry, Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, Episode 3. From Numenor to the Southlands and everywhere in between. My name is Mike Gibson. With me as always is Steve Haller. What's up, Steve?
Well, apparently a lot more positivity than the last one of these we had, because we did have our special guest and good friend Colin Koberger on to give us his reactions after the first cut. He was not the most impressed out of on a scale of 1 to impressed, he was somewhere around like a 2. There were many nits to pick. I think you and I are both taking this with a little different grain of salt.
I think so. I haven't. I've only heard a little bit of the episode that you did with Colin. And by the way, shout out to Colin Koberger and big thank you to him for jumping on to do a reaction to episode 1 of Rings of Power when I was unavailable to do so with Steve. That episode is available on our YouTube page and in your feed. If you haven't listened to it yet, you can listen to them discuss first reactions to the first episode. And then the 1 and 2 came out so quickly, and my last weekend I was super busy, so I did not have the time to do a second one, so we did not do a second one. But here we are to talk about the third one. And yes, Steve, from what you've told me and from what I've heard of that episode, I like this show much more than Colin does. And I have very few, if zero, nits to pick at all. I am not, but also I got to say, I know Lord of the Rings franchise is a franchise that's very close to his heart. The books, very ingrained in his soul. Me, I've read the books. I've seen all the movies. I've seen the 70s animated version also. And I like all those things.
Was that a Rankin and Bass?
I think it was, but not stop motion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, I've seen all those things. I enjoy all those things, but they're not necessarily in my heart the way that, Batman or Star Wars is. So, I understand, being very protective about a source material, but I don't know. I guess I'm just not that nitpicky a person, because I don't.
Well,
I
and I think you and I, we might have. Fair enough. I think you and I may have hit on something too, as both of us being like big comic guys are used to seeing iterations of characters and plot lines that get chopped and reworked, and you put a different person on it, and it's a completely different story. Right. Look at post Claremont X-Men. Who knows what the continuity between any of the 17 different writers that have worked on it since is like it's all different teams and it's all different views of stuff. And I guess the way we're used to comic adaptations into film and TV is there are a lot of liberties taken where they use the skeleton of the source material and then do their thing. Whereas something that's a hard and fast continuity like Tolkien, where he's the only one, he and his son are the only two that have played in the sandbox. Right. And I think
although it has been adapted, it hasn't been adapted countless times to where you like you said, comics people understand, like, it's going to be different this time. Yeah, it's going to be different this time. Like, really, Bob Kane and Bill Finger invented Batman in 1939. Really, every writer after every creative team after Bob Kane and Bill Finger are adapting that original work. So, and like you said, who's written Lord of the Rings? One person and his son. That's
his son, who was like utilizing every bit of his father's writing.
Right. Yeah. And there's been far less adaptations. There's been what, 10, 11 live action Batman movies?
Right.
They're all every time they're different, So you go into it expecting differences. You don't go into it expecting this better be exactly like the source material. So I guess I understand that point of view, like someone coming into this show being like, this better be exactly like the Lord of the Rings that I know and love, or I'm going to hate it. I get it. I don't prescribe to it, but I guess I understand it.
Oh, totally. 100%.
But
And
anyway,
and to be fair,
go
the
ahead.
more I've watched it, he had some very. I'm with him on some of the CG and wire work and that sort of thing, like the actual production.
Okay.
The sets and the visuals are absolutely stunning, and like
Yeah.
you can tell this is a $500 million show or whatever.
Yep. They spent that money.
Yeah.
They spent that money.
But every once in a while, you still have like not quite a Moon Knight log scene, but you've got like okay.
There was definitely a scene. I can't remember because I watched 1, 2, and 3 nights in a row. So it's a little blurry for me as far as what was in each episode. Right. But whatever the episode where, I think it was the second one where Elrond meets the dwarves, King Durin.
In Khazad-dûm. Yep.
In Khazad-dûm, yep. And they're on that elevator. I think it's when they're riding back up the elevator.
Mm-hmm.
The green screen was like, whoa, that guy's not really standing in that. Like, it was very obvious. And it was only obvious because all of the other stuff, like 90% of everything else, looks incredible.
Right.
So when all of a sudden it looks a little less than incredible, you're like, oh yeah, no, I can tell. Like,
well, and that was, I went back and watched episode 1 with my wife because ultimately it was a test run. She didn't dive in, but I was like, just watch the first one. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, then go on your merry way.
Sure.
But went back and rewatched it, and there a lot of the like close up exposition where it's like Elrond and Galadriel talking, or especially Elrond and Gil-galad, or the other scene where Gil-galad and Morfydd Clark, who plays I wanted to say Glorfindel, that's way off, Galadriel, are kind of speaking in the woods there. You can tell, like, very much so that it sounds stagey. It's like it's like there's a curtain behind. It's almost like a stage production where there's just a curtain behind them, and you're like, oh, that's a backdrop. Okay. So it's like the highs of the production quality are way through the roof, and every once in a while you get a like, oh, okay, I
you go like,
tell.
oh, okay, this is a TV show.
Yep.
Yeah.
So a TV show with a budget like 12 times any movie out there.
But still, I feel like if it bothers you so much that an elf has short hair, then I don't know, maybe just watch the Peter Jackson trilogy. Like, I don't know.
Fair.
I don't know. Also, I feel like if they all had long hair, they'd be hard to tell apart. They'd all look the same. I don't know, because I felt like all the elves in the Peter Jackson movies looked exactly alike, and if I didn't know one was Legolas, then I'd be well, I don't know. Anyway, episode 3. I really like this show a lot. Episode 3 was as much as I liked episode 1, episode 2, episode 3 was a step up, I thought, for me. And I think it's just now that I'm like getting to know these characters a little bit more, getting more invested in their storylines, or more interesting things are happening to them. But damn, this was great from the opening. I don't remember the exact sequence, but I think we start with, Steve, I told you before we went live that you're on names. Because I don't know. I know Galadriel.
Yep.
I know Elrond. I'm learning a couple other ones, but the main elf dude that's trapped that we're following.
Arondir?
It's Arondir. Yes, thank you. I'm close to remembering his name.
We'll get you there.
Yeah, he is. Now he's working for some orcs with his buddies that also got captured, digging out a trench, which we learn later in the episode is the orcs terraforming the Southlands to eventually make them become Mordor. Which I guess there had been that was the rumor circulating on like socials and stuff. I was avoiding everything, so I did not see that until after the episode was over. I was like, oh yeah, I guess I didn't think about that, but other people had a week to think about it. But I think that's a super cool. I think it's a super cool element to add to a prequel because you can't think that Mordor just naturally occurred as a desolate, evil wasteland.
Right.
So it's cool. It's like
just magically popped up on the map as a boiling volcano and giant tower for no reason.
Between beautiful forests and mountains and things, just like let's put a giant black evil spot right there. But I think
this
that's
is
really
the
cool.
evil spot on the map.
Yeah. Because it's a prequel, I think that's a really cool way to like show hey, this is the slow but sure oncoming of this horrible, evil force, and not only are we doing it, we're forcing good guys to do it also. Like, we're taking good people and enslaving them to make them do it. It's not just Sauron whipping the backs of orcs, making them do it. They seem to be doing it a little bit too, but the fact that they're also enslaving other people to do it.
Yeah, I mean, he's literally working on a chain gang.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
It's the elves are in a bit of dire straits, and not Mark Knopfler.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we start with the elves and we end with the elves, but the middle of the episode was very Numenor centric, and probably the bulk of the episode, which
it really was.
I mean, it's kind of it's the first exposition you've seen in live action on Numenor and the other lands that were given to the humans, which eventually the Numenorians settle in Gondor, over in Middle Earth.
Okay.
So that's where so Isildur and Elendil, that is Aragorn's bloodline.
Yes, I knew that.
Yep.
I remember that from the movies. As soon as they said Isildur, I was like, I know that, because I immediately flashed to the opening of Fellowship of the Ring where Elrond is yelling, Isildur! I was like, I know that guy. The guy
Hold on,
didn't drop
I know that name.
But then, that's like super cool that they are. I guess I don't know like what I expected this show to be about and what characters, because I was like, okay, it's a really long time before anything we've seen. But then getting into it, I was like, oh, but like that whole prologue of Fellowship of the Ring also happens a really long time before like the main story. So like those elements are there, and those connections are making me more excited, even more excited than I was about the show, now that I understand like, oh, we're gonna maybe, probably not in this season, but eventually like we could see that giant battle where he's an adult, in season 4 of this show or whatever, where he cuts the ring from the hand and then refuses to drop it, and like that we could see that could be the finale of this series.
Yeah, I mean, that's we've already met the 3 pieces to the puzzle of that battle where Gil-galad and not Elisar, Elendil are the 2 that defeat Sauron, and then Isildur cuts the ring from his hand. Like, that's we've already met everybody.
I know.
the chess pieces are on the board. So
and then Aragorn is Isildur's heir.
Yeah, like grandson or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. Because of the time. Okay. Yeah. So now, sorry, I watched Lord of the Rings and House of the Dragon like back to back, so I got heirs and lineages, like trying to like keep them all straight here.
Family trees are looking like the Pepe Sylvia scene in Always Sunny.
yeah. Who is whose heir to what now?
Yeah.
So, I thought Numenor looked incredible, and that's a name that I believe they mention in the Peter Jackson trilogy. I didn't remember it from the books, but I remember them saying like the glory of Numenor or whatever, like talking about it in days past. And the way that they made this look definitely lived up to the glory of Numenor. It looked incredible. It looked like a beautiful, I don't know, civilization.
Right.
I guess. Yeah.
Which contrasts from the Southlands where, and that's your dichotomy is.
Yeah.
Numenor was given to the humans that sided with the right side in the Great War against Morgoth, and then the rest of them got to go hang out in the Southlands that eventually become Mordor.
Yeah. Interesting. What's the name of the guy that Galadriel meets on the raft again?
Halbrand.
Halbrand. Did not expect him to be some kind of lethal vigilante, which we find out in this episode. Pretty brutal.
Vigilante blacksmith, apparently.
Yeah, because he's begging for a blacksmith job at one point, and then 15 minutes later he's snapping arms against a brick wall. And
because he stole the guild sigil from the one dude.
Yeah, because he stole it from a guy. That guy gets mad and comes to him, and then he murders him brutally. So, interesting. So, like, what Galadriel was saying, so he's like the king of a people that don't exist anymore, right? They got wiped out by orcs, basically. Is what that's his deal.
I don't know because I want that one. I'm not really sure on. Like how he fits into this puzzle.
It seemed like what he was saying. She's like, because he said that his people have no king, and she said, your people have no king because you're the king. You're your people's king, and you're not with them or whatever. And he's like, well, I think he said something about that they were slaughtered.
Oh, well, that's not great for them.
I could be wrong. I could be making again. I'm watching 2 fantasy shows at the same time, and I can't keep up with either of them.
Yeah, I know he was made up for. I know he was another character that was made up for the series.
Okay.
And another one that. So at this point, I know in the pre-roll we talked about who is going to be Sauron, because Sauron basically I can't remember the way it was explicitly described, but I think it was something to do with he first appears in fair form. So instead, like he's not just the eye. Ultimately, like he appears as a human initially.
Sure.
And
he's probably not in the giant 9-foot tall armor. Either.
Right.
He's probably gonna be like,
yeah. He doesn't look like the big brother to the Witch King all the time.
Yeah. Right. Because I watched another recap of this episode to remind me what happened in this episode earlier today. And the people that were recapping that episode seemed to think that at the end of this episode, when our main elf guy, whose name you said 30 seconds ago, and I already forgot it, Arondir, is defeated, unable to escape, and they say we're going to bring him before
Adar.
Adar.
And
the people that were recapping the episode that I was watching really were positive that Adar was Sauron.
Right.
You're saying that's possible, but not for sure.
Well, I mean, you've still got who the hell is the stranger, and I'm sure we'll touch on the Harfoots and Nori and that whole storyline a little bit too. So we don't know who the stranger is, and we don't know anything about Halbrand, who is a blacksmith who, like, is a lost king of a people that were all destroyed, like Morgoth's armies.
So you're saying that any one of these people could be
hypothetically
Sauron returned, yeah.
But the other thing we've got to figure out, like we know where the elf rings went and who got them. Same thing, dwarves. I'm sure we could discern that, but like, who are the 9 ring wraiths?
The 9 kings men, yeah.
Is Halbrand like the Witch King of Angmar, or like one of the ring wraiths, or where are they fitting into this too? So there's a lot of unknowns at this point. Known unknowns.
A lot of unknowns. But this guy, Adar, we didn't get to really see his face at the end of the episode. It was blurry, and they like cut it right before he came into focus. But he was wearing those like metal gauntlet-y things on his hand.
Yeah.
Sauron likes to wear. So, but that could be a red herring also at the same time.
Yeah. Now, did we?
That was really cool. Oh,
I watched it a couple nights ago. Did we get any definitive? Was it an elf? Like, did we see ears that he like on Adar?
Oh no, I didn't notice because they kept him blurry. Like he kept walking closer, but they didn't really let him come into full focus, and they cut it before that. So I can't really say that there was any defining features really at all.
Right. So could he be another one of the ring wraiths? Or like, are all these pieces we're meeting, are they all ring wraiths?
Yeah. I hadn't thought about who the ring wraiths would end up being.
The 9 mortal men doomed to die?
I mean, because they're all, at least as we've seen them before, I don't remember how they're described in the book, but as we've seen them, they're just all black cloaked, so it could be anybody.
Right. I mean,
male or female, or it doesn't matter like what you look like. You're going to end up wearing a black cloak.
Right.
And metal gauntlets, so could be anybody. Interesting. I hadn't really thought about that. This was also the episode with the warg, right? Isn't there like a warg battle?
Yep.
Yeah, that was dope.
Yeah, on they stick it on the chain gang.
Yeah, the effects on that looked really good, and pretty brutal. Just like taking chomps out of people.
Oh yeah,
apart. That's pretty rough. And I gotta say, I think the orcs in this show look incredible.
Yeah.
The
That nice mix of practical and yep.
Man, that is incredible work on their faces. I just love they're all wearing like skull helmets, like the Predator in Prey.
Yeah.
Like a
Yep. That's what I was thinking
skull masks kind of thing. Yeah.
Which we'll get to in the main show, but the Inquisitor that is wearing a skull mask like that in the
oh yeah, in the trailer for
the trailer.
Tales of the Jedi. Yeah. Stick around for the main episode coming up right after this, where we talk about a lot of D23 stuff. So yeah, Harfoots. I think the main I've seen some people online say that they don't think that this feels like Tolkien or feels like Lord of the Rings. I like crazy disagree with that. I feel it with the Harfoots, how they're written, how they're portrayed, I know there's like supposed to be like proto hobbits, right?
Yep.
And I feel like they are the source of making me feel like this is a Lord of the Rings show or this is a Tolkien show, because like the way they talk about their lifestyle, the humor, all the like most of the humor comes from that storyline, and all of that is very in line with what I remember from the Lord of the Rings trilogy or from the books. Like when Nori is like inside. Hey, I remembered a name. When Nori is sneaking to find that book and her hand is over the table, but you can't see, and her friend's outside being like, I'll be right back or whatever. Yeah. Like, I'm going straight forward. Like all that's kind of like, that's like, it's like a little cheesy, but like fun and like kind of like,
but you can totally see like Merry and Pippin doing exactly that.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Like it feels very much like that same tone of Hobbit humor or Hobbit interaction and stuff, which I think is great. I think they're really crushing it. And for me, that's what reminds me that this is a Lord of the Rings show and it's not just another House of the Dragon fantasy kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's the hobbits, and or in this case the Harfoots, have always been kind of the empathetic center to the whole thing. And it's like this everything else is happening, but this is the character that's like it's the PC in the game. Like you're centered on the Harfoot or Hobbit storyline, and everything else is happening around them, and there's all sorts of crazy stuff, but like they're the ones you latch onto.
Right. Yeah, because you care about them because they're small and they're vulnerable and they're excited about the world outside. Everyone else is like jaded because of, hundreds of years of war or whatever, So do you think that the stranger that fell from the sky could be Sauron? Is that what you're saying? It's a possibility?
I mean, it's definitely a possibility. I mean, there's a couple of things out there of it, like being the Astari, which is one of the things that Tolkien purists are very not happy about, because technically they weren't supposed to come the wizards. Oh, so Gandalf and Saruman.
I know. I was thinking that it's Gandalf or a wizard of some kind, but I also think it's a little obvious that it would be Gandalf.
And I mean, I don't know enough about the lore itself to know like the precursors, the Maiar, or any of the other, like, who would have come at that time, and I haven't seen anything as to speculation.
So why are Tolkien purists mad that it might be a wizard?
Because this is set in the Second Age, and they weren't supposed to show up till like 1,000 years into the Third Age.
Whatever. Come on. Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? You want a wizard in your show or not? I think the majority of people want a wizard. Come on.
Right.
Who cares? We're just having fun. We want a wizard. Come on. Light up, Tolkien purists. Lighten up. Light up and lighten up. Both of those things.
Grab your pipe weed and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. And be like, hey, cool, we get a wizard. Great.
Enjoy your old
if
Toby.
It's a wizard.
And
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, who it could be, that's one of the obvious, is that it's like one of the wizards. Whether it be, I guess that's the other thing, is like, well, Saruman was the leader of the Order, so he should be the one that showed up first, or, there's all sorts of stuff I've heard around.
I mean, that would be cool if they make you think that it's Gandalf, but it turns out to be, like, if it would be a cool twist to have it turn out to be a bad guy. that ends up turning on the Harfoots or something like that after Nori has invested so much time in rehabilitating them and helping them and everything, and all of a sudden he's like, "Nah, my name's Saruman. Fuck you." you know?
Yeah.
That'd be kind of a cool twist, a heartless one, but a cool one. Yeah, Steve, I really like this show. I think it's really good.
Yeah, I think they're onto something. I think if they can keep the momentum up, that we'll definitively be very happy with where it lands. And hopefully, in all honesty, like you said, they went from we talked about it earlier, throwing 8,000 characters at you, to now we're down to like 3 storylines were touched on in this episode, and like next week maybe it's progressing 3 others or whatever, so it's down to a manageable chunk. And maybe for some people that's a lot easier to swallow than the deluge of everything coming at you all at once.
Well, like I think it's been proven that that the fans of any show will tolerate 1 million characters as long as all those storylines are well written and good, and all those characters are intriguing and like worthy of their own storyline.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
And even in like the first episode, you're getting 1 million characters, but you're still not sure. Like, okay, this is 1 million characters. This is a new, like, all the Harfoots. Okay, well, these are all the Harfoots, but I'm supposed to care about this one. Okay, so now I know the other one's in relationship to that one.
Right.
And same thing with the elves. Same thing with dwarves and everything else.
Here's all these elves. This one jumped off a boat. We should pay attention to her.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, this one stabbed an ice troll in the face. So maybe she's.
We should like her. Yeah. Okay, cool.
We should like her more. Yeah. Real quick, I think this was an episode 2 thing, but what's going on with the son of that woman? He found like an evil sword that it's taking his blood and growing. Like, what's going on with that?
Yeah.
You know what sword that is?
No.
Okay.
That's all I got for you. Looks pretty great, but
the blood from his hand running up into the blade, and then the blade taking it, being like, "Now I can grow," like, or whatever. Like,
ooh, food! Cool. Yay!
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe some other tie to. Like, I'm just going to go back to another, maybe it's another one of the Ring Wraiths or something along those lines, or some other servant of Sauron. So. Yeah,
because it certainly seems like something that, I mean, I only say that it's evil because it looks evil. It looks like an evil, minion of Sauron type sword.
Yeah.
And the fact that it grew when it sucked his blood out, then that, tends to lean evil.
The trend seems the trend line on that is trending towards evil,
trending towards blackness. But what I'm interested to see, like, if it corrupts that kid, if that kid becomes some kind of horrible monster, that'd be sad. But anyway, that's another storyline that I'm interested in, which was not touched on.
Well, we already know his choice of friends isn't that great, so
true. But his mom's a badass.
True.
Because certainly cut a head off an orc and then plopped it right down on the bar at the local town pub or whatever. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was great.
See? They are real.
Yeah. Like, see? Pack up. We're getting out of here. That was great.
God.
Cool. That's all I got for episode 3 of Lord of the Rings. People watching, let us know if you like this, because we feel like it's hard for us to do both House of the Dragon and Lord of the Rings at the same time. So
yeah.
If you'd rather us do one, let us know. If you're missing the House of the Dragon recaps, we'll jump back to that. If you want more Lord of the Rings, we'll stay on Lord of the Rings. Or maybe we'll just figure out, maybe we'll go every other week. Who knows?
Right.
But let us know if you have an opinion out there listening. But
and guess what? We get to juggle Andor in there in a week and a half.
Yeah, but I'm excited about that. Like, I'll
also
make
true.
the time for Andor. I'll make the time for that. And we'll talk about that trailer in a second, too.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah.
All right. Yeah, so anyone who's watching, feel free to hang on, and we'll be hitting our weekly episode in a couple of minutes. And, feel free to like, subscribe, follow us on any of your, however you're viewing this. Leave us a review for your podcatcher of choice. Helps us out, helps the algorithms let you all find us more. And other than that, themultiverseport.com, themultiverseport@gmail.com.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time in the multiverse.
Okay. talking about in the next episode? Hey.